Hi, everybody, and welcome to So What Happens Next. As always, I'm one of your hosts, Thomas.
I'm Amber.
And this week, we're continuing our marathon of horror insanity. It's The Evil Dead 2. How are you doing today, Amber?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, so Evil Dead 2, 1987. Any remaining thoughts from the first one that have held over that you maybe thought about since the last one and all?
Does it have the same director?
Yes, it does. Sam Raimi did return to direct this movie.
Okay, so we can expect the same kookiness as the first one?
Well, I think definitely, because this movie on IMDb anyway is labeled as a comedy horror movie, so maybe we're doubling down.
Yeah.
I guess
from the intensity of the first film.
Exactly. It looks like the poster for this one is called Evil Dead 2 Dead by Dawn, so I think that would have been kind of a cooler title than just Evil Dead 2. But, yeah, we're getting Sam Raimi back to make this movie. I don't know how it's going to go, but let's dive into it based on the first one. What are your thoughts on this one? What do you think it's going to be about? What do you think we're going to see,
Well, like forward? I said, I don't think it's going to be a continuation of Ash, and so it's going to be like, 5 to 10 years later, another group of kids, they go to, let's say they're going to do a different location, just because, like, Evil Dead, it doesn't seem to have, like, a location per se, so...
Well, yeah, the evil book came from Sumeria, and then
so
it's in Tennessee, so I think you're kind of open to go wherever you want.
Yeah, exactly. So, they go to another cabin in the woods, and, it ends up being, like, other people researching this type of thing, I guess, but maybe a more modern take on it. So instead of having the tape recorder and shit, you might actually have, like, other characters that live in that area, and they're just kind of like, go away, don't stay here, this is...
You're gonna get the classic, nobody around here comes out alive, or whatever. We don't want no trouble or no visitors, those, like, hill folk people that are like, you're someone not from this community, get the hell out, kind of type thing?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you think that it's gonna be, like, people who are actively researching, like, the book and the evil... whatever they were called.
Yeah. Unless, like, the Evil Dead has managed to transpire in, like, other people and maybe hasn't manifested yet. Oh,
so you think maybe it's, like, we're dealing with sort of a disease-esque
because they have to enter
scenario.
their bodies, right, in order to become, like,
yeah, I mean,
evil.
It wasn't exactly the clearest movie on the mechanism
all we saw was,
it.
like, a floating camera, like, rushing towards someone.
True, yeah.
But, yeah, I'm just thinking it's, you're going to have a different cast, and then possibly, like we said, Bruce Campbell coming back and, being like, oh, this is how you're supposed to, take care of this. Like, we need to, like, dismember everybody.
Right.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. So I think obviously I think you're dead on with the 5-10 year mark. I mean, this movie's about 6 years later, so you're pretty in that ballpark. Yeah, I guess, like, as far as I would think, I think it actually would be kind of cool to see what you said, like, these people who are actually, like, in the middle of researching, like, maybe get one of this guy who found the book's students or something. He knows his old advisor's dead, he's continuing on with this work, and, like, trying to learn more, or maybe even do what they did in Kingdom Hearts, where it's, you're not willing to go far enough with this research type thing, and they take the Evil Dead research too far, and like you get this horrible nightmare thing.
Yeah.
I could totally see that happening, and I kind of wouldn't mind it. Like, that'd be kind of cool, like a more Evil Dead movie. I think that the demon monster people are definitely going to come back, like, more of them. I think we're going to get, like, way more than just 3.
Yeah.
And the trees. I think this is going to be kind of like I mean, I guess ultimately the third one of these movies is called Army of Darkness. So I think we got to be somewhere between an army of baddies and 3 people in a cabin.
Yeah.
But I think you're probably on the ball. I mean, Bruce Campbell's billed in this movie, so I would assume that it's like maybe him. Maybe it's like him.
Maybe after this, he starts investigating.
Well,
and
I'm
he
actually
becomes like the researcher for
Oh,
this.
see, that'd be pretty cool. See, I was gonna say what I think is I don't
like
think this
a private
movie's
investigator type of thing.
maybe.
So, yeah, private archaeologist or something like that.
I'm wondering if maybe this movie's not 5 to 10 years later, and it's like immediately after, and he's like wandered out.
That would be the nicest thing, but it's kind of hard to.
I know.
Yeah.
But it's like
that.
he's wandered out. But like, get this. So like, I would say this movie's he's wandered out of the woods finally after like fighting off the Evil Dead for days. Right.
Yeah.
He wanders on that stereotypical gas station I've been waiting for in these movies, where a group of teens is going out to a cabin to go hang out. He's like, you don't want to go out there. Or they find him, they give him a ride or something, and he's like, where are you guys going anyway? And like, oh, we're going to this cabin in the woods. And it hits him like, oh shit, back in it again. And like, he has to fight it off. He tries to convince them to leave. They don't, but he's like, I can't leave these kids to die. You get a whole thing of that. And then it becomes, all right, guys, we're going to fuck shit up. And like, it just goes for it. But at the same time, it's going to be like 7 friends instead of 5 or something like that. And they're all turning into monsters or whatever. How do you think this one's going to end compared to the first one? I mean, clearly we're starting to develop a franchise here. So, like, the first one for, spoilers for both The Evil Dead 1 and 2 in this episode.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be something like...
Because you think he's dead at the end of the first one. I mean, clearly he's not.
I feel like it's going to be like the ending of the Ghostbusters. Honestly,
where they just pan out, or they just pan out and they're all covered in marshmallow. What?
No, like prior to. So if they didn't destroy, the marshmallow man and like get rid of all the ghosts, like it's just like that at the end, and then they're like, shit, the apocalypse is like upon us, which comes into like
so
Army
you
of
mean
Darkness.
like the midpoint?
They basically released all the demons into the world,
gotcha.
The world kind of goes into shit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is like a fuck, and then it's ended.
Yeah.
Okay, so like halfway through the Ghostbusters.
Because they think they've won,
right?
But incidentally, they've just released everything, and there's really no way to put the monster back into its cage.
You're doing like a Pandora's box scenario. Like you can't put them back in the bottle once it spills out. Like, whoops.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. And I mean, like that right there could really lead
into
into
post-apocalyptic world. That'd be like really.
That'd be cool because isn't that I haven't seen it, so nobody spoil it in between this episode and next. But like, I have not seen Ash vs. the Evil Dead, but that was my impression. Is it's kind of like what you described?
Yeah. Like you're kind of living
like
in a world
where you're fighting these monsters off, right? Yeah. Oh, that would actually be really damn cool. It makes me want to watch this series more. Which I think once we're done with this marathon, I'm definitely going to start watching that. When we're recording this, like many other podcasts I'm sure you're listening to, is in the midst of the whole coronavirus outbreak. So hopefully when this gets released, it's not still going on. But, if it is, then it's still relevant. But it's something I probably will start doing during this whole lockdown. But yeah, I think I'm going to back off your 5 to 10 years later. I think it's going to be immediately after. Okay. I think we're going to have to just, willful suspension of disbelief that the clearly 6 years older Bruce Campbell is not the same one from the other one, but I think that it's fine. But yeah, so we're going to take a sec, watch the trailer, and we'll give you our final thoughts on this right before we dive in and watch The Evil Dead 2. Wow. That, when I said they're going to double down on the comedy, they really doubled down on that comedy. My God. That trailer was something. So for anyone who is listening and wants to watch the trailer we just watched, it's the 1 minute 27 second trailer that is on the IMDb page for Evil Dead 2. It should be the first one that plays of the 5, I guess. It seems like it's the original theatrical trailer, so that's pretty cool. I loved how it ended, like, Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. Like, I loved that. That was great. This movie just looks like... I was a little worried. I'm a little worried still, because one of my comments, for those of you that listened to our last episode on Evil Dead 1, go check it out if you haven't, but I had mentioned that I was like, this one was filmed like in such a campy, cheap style, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like this movie clearly is much better shot, much better special effects, and then like campy when it needs to be campy. But I'm just kind of looking at it going like, oh man, I really hope this doesn't have that effect I was afraid of like it's filmed too well and now it doesn't look. It looks like it's like, what is this movie now? I will say that to top off from based on what we said, the back of the DVD box description of this is the lone survivor of an onslaught of flesh possessing spirits holes up in a cabin with a group of strangers while the demons continue their attack. So maybe not immediately after. I'm not sure. It looks like they redid. The thing I wasn't really a fan of in that trailer though was it looks like they redid shots straight out of the first one.
Yeah.
Like when he lops off what's her name's head.
Yeah.
It's like.
But then again, it did look a little bit different. So
that's what I mean. Is it wasn't. Yeah. It was like they reshot the shots from the first movie, which I was like, that's kind of weird to do. Not the worst thing, but I guess like it's there. I don't know. Looks like you get some neat little claymation on the faces though, like little faces that are changing and stuff. So I don't know. Color me excited for the Evil Dead 2. I for one liked Evil Dead 1. This looks like it's going to be just completely hilarious and over the top, and it's also only an hour and 24 minutes, so we're still kind of living in that 85 to 90 minute realm, so hopefully this is spot on with just how long I want it to be. Amber, what about you? What are your final thoughts before we go ahead and go watch this movie?
The eyeball going into the screaming girl's mouth. I love that so fucking much.
that I think made me
that
go,
just basically explained
that. There's in the trailer there is a scene, and there is in the movie too, where like they're stomping someone's head with the basement door. It looks like it's the same house.
Yeah, it does.
Like it looks like the same cabin, right?
Yeah.
But they're stomping on the thing and her eyeball like pops out of her head, and it goes. You clearly see it on a stick, and it goes right into this girl's mouth.
Whoever owns this cabin is just.
I mean, they must have made millions
it's
by
like
now.
The slumlords of this day, like day and age.
These people suck. Whoever keeps renting this cabin out to these
exactly.
teens,
they keep renting out this cabin. It's
for
just
for older listeners, if you're out there, what was this? What the 80s were like when you were like a teenager and you wanted to go somewhere? You call someone up to rent like a shitty thing, and it was like, oh, this place sucks ass. And guess we'll just deal. But even then,
they must have gone in there and were like, oh, like. They must have just, been a little too rowdy. Like, looks like they were trying on Halloween costumes.
Yeah, it's covered in blood and, like, all their shelves and
like,
shit
you
are
have to be blind in order not to see that.
Or you just have to not care. Like,
oh, but, like, just another, situation that we had on our hands. And let me just clean it up, sweep it under the rug.
Yep. Oh, we'll put this in the basement along with that creepy book and projector and recording. Oh, wow, a sword? Well, that's going in there, too. We don't need these kids fucking around with us. Then the guy's driving away, and he's like, did I remember to chain up the basement before I left? It's fine. I'm sure no one's going to go down there anyway. And they do it twice.
Yep.
But that is our intro here to The Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn. It'll be a few seconds for you, and it'll be a grand total of about 90 minutes for us as we dive into this movie on our Evil Dead marathon. You ready for this, Amber?
I am so ready.
Then let's go do this. Second best horror movie ever. That was great.
Yeah.
I seriously think I just found my second favorite horror movie of all time in that movie. Evil Dead 2. Wow. Okay, how do we describe what this is? It's like a sequel, but not quite?
Yeah, I don't know if they switched a few people around. I think that's what happened. So, like, the actors and actresses that they had in the previous film, they somehow couldn't bring them back except for Bruce Campbell, who plays Ash.
Right.
And so I think they were trying to kind of basically showed what happened in the first film to kind of remind people. but they couldn't bring everyone back, and so they only did like a little snippet of it, which was a little bit different. But otherwise, like, it just went straight into it.
Yeah, I mean, you're mostly right. According to some of the trivia, I guess they couldn't actually get the rights to use film from the first movie.
Oh.
So they couldn't use footage from The Evil Dead.
Couldn't get rights to their own movie?
Right. I don't know why, but I mean, that's what it said. Take it all with a grain of salt, but it sounds like they couldn't get the rights to use the footage from the first movie, so they had to restage things to explain what happened.
Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised if you were also right in that, like, people wouldn't come back, and I mean, they probably weren't like, oh, we're going to be killed off in the first 5 minutes of this thing. Why can't you just use the other stuff? Or maybe they were busy, who knows, but you know, you want to make a sequel, but you have to like rehash the first one, which I have to admit, I kind of like the way they treat the first one in this movie a lot better.
Yeah.
Because they're very, you know, it's quickest to the point. It's just Ash and Linda, I think. They go out to this cabin. Though I think the one problem I have is like, who cares who lives here, baby? Let's just stay here and hang out. Like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Like, who the fuck is doing that? Because he's clearly just doing it to like get away. Like, he even says like, oh, we'll just tell him the car broke down, and and it's just like that. I don't know. Renting the cabin for the weekend made a little bit more sense, but yeah, we kind of just show. So the beginning just sort of starts out. The very, very beginning is they explain the book, the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, or the Book of the Dead, as they call it. It's the creepy book with a face on it. Though they make it look a lot different in this movie. It doesn't look as like oily. It looks a lot more cheesy. But yeah. So we kind of. I think I kind of get the points on that one. Is this movie picks up in sort of an overlap and then immediately after The Evil Dead. So we watch Ash get assaulted by the whatever Evil Dead monster again. And he goes like flying into a tree. Yeah, he like smashes into a tree. He wakes up and he's a ghoulie. He's a fucking monster. He's an Evil Dead. But the sun comes up and it cures him. Yeah, I guess. And he's just like, oh, what the fuck's going on? He's kind of going crazy.
Yeah, he's passing in and out, and unfortunately, he passes out until he wakes up again, and it's already like dusk.
Yeah, he's back. He wakes up again, and it's nighttime. Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, I gotta get out of here. And I think he gets to the bridge.
And the bridge, of course, is already messed up, as we had seen in the first film.
It looks like Godzilla tore through that bridge. Like, this is the thing I don't understand.
Or it just looks like it was pulled up.
It looks like someone like came and like ripped it in half, because all the metal's like torn up. Yeah. And then all the people in this town, we meet the other characters later on, which include the archaeologist's daughter, Annie. I think it's like her dude is Ed, maybe? I don't know who's who in this movie, to be honest. But yeah, we got the main people that you wind up with are Ash, Annie, Jake, Bobby, Joe, and Linda. Well, Linda's dead, and Ed. I'm pretty sure Annie and her dude Ed, I guess, are archaeologists coming back from wherever the fuck they found this book. Yeah. And they have some missing pages.
Yeah, and they're there to meet up with her father, who obviously has the book, so they can like piece everything together.
Another one for me is this whole grad student kind of situation. She's working with her dad to figure out what the hell's going on with this book. Along the way, they're driving and they find the bridge is torn out, and that's where they meet Bobby, Joe, and her man, Jake?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
It's gotta be the way he's freaking out about her at the end.
That's definitely. I thought they were a couple, like husband and wife.
Yeah, or something.
Yeah. And he's like kind of like the mechanic of the town.
Yeah, he's like a tow truck driver or something. And they're like, oh yeah, the bridge is out, but I know a way to get around. If you follow me, it'll be 45. And then he looks at her and she looks at him and raises an eyebrow and goes, $100. Yeah. And I'm like, this guy was about to say $45, please.
You know, it's like when we were kids and we thought that $20 was so much money.
Oh my god.
And then we grew up and we were just like, wait a second, this is like nothing. Yeah. You can barely get anything. That's how that scene felt like to me. Yeah. Was just like $100 because it sounds good in my head.
Yeah, $4,500. And it's just like, okay, fine, but I think Annie says, you gotta carry my bags.
Yeah.
And it winds up, the gag is like she has a giant trunk or something he has to carry or whatever. But while all that's going on, Ash gets back to the cabin and the Evil Dead are still there.
Yeah, and they're taunting him with Linda,
who
looks freakish.
Yeah, so we redo a lot of the scenes of the first movie, such as that awesome scene where he chops off Linda's head with a shovel, and like she jumps at him, he chops her head off, and then he buries her or whatever. And I guess they're taunting him with her because they have this little scene where he's playing a piano. There's so much more to this cabin in this movie. Like, there's a kitchen that we never see in the first one. There's
like everything's more well laid out.
Oh yeah, like it makes more sense. Like it's not a constantly continuing small space. But they're like taunting her.
It
with
actually looks like people lived there.
Right. Oh my god, I know. Like so much more went into this movie. You can tell because it's just like, oh, this looks like a place where someone would stay or live, or whatever. But yeah, she's like a headless corpse dancing in the moonlight and shit. And I think her head bites Ash's hand.
Yeah, it does.
And that infects him. It infects his hand. It turns his hand into one of the Evil Dead, but only his hand. And I mean, I gotta say straight up at the top of this, I'm loving Bruce Campbell's like overacting. Like you could tell he's just having fun with it. Yeah. And you can tell that everybody that's what they want this movie to be. And I mean, he's just like, no.
Yeah,
and,
like it's just
out.
so Tim Burton-esque. Like that's what it reminded me of with like the whole like claymation.
It was very like Tim Burton if Tim Burton was more blood and gore.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Especially like Beetlejuice and stuff when they have like, oh, you have a hand like moving around or something else.
But it was
like
just the fact that he like the hand, the hand thinks it knocked Ash out.
Yeah.
And it's crawling towards like a butcher's knife.
Yeah.
The next thing you know, Ash like stabs his own hand with like a fucking chef's knife, and he's like, got you now, and then grabs first, and also we get the fucking chainsaw again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just loving that it's like all these things you see in the first one where it's like, he didn't use a chainsaw. They kind of sucked using the gun. In this movie, he's like, fuck everything. And just like picks up the chainsaw. He like chainsaws his own hand off and it's still alive trying to kill him. I mean, and then he's
able to wield a gun.
Oh, I know.
Like,
he's able to just like start blowing his shotgun around and like shooting everything in the room. I mean, it's so fucking awesome. And the one-liners this guy has are just like so great. Like he's just, these stupid one-liners like gotcha. I mean, just like cheesy movie things. But every time he like kills one of these Evil Deads or his hand or something, he's like, like not in my house or some shit like that.
Yeah, or groovy.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute because it's like the end. But like, yeah, so everybody gets to the house and they all think for a minute Ash killed everybody. They killed the dad. We revisit the recording from the previous movie, or at least like a revamped recording of the previous movie, which is Annie's father, the archaeologist who found the Necronomicon, and he's like reading from it like a jackass. And then he like, I guess he turns his wife into one in the recordings, and he's like, I couldn't bring myself to like chop her up, so I just buried her in the basement.
And as they're saying that, Ash is down there, locked up.
Yeah, they trap Ash in the basement because they think he's a murderer, like a crazy person. Because I think he shoots Bobby Joe in the shoulder. Yeah. When they knock on the door, because he's like in the midst of freaking out. Yeah, I was
sure he killed somebody.
I thought he killed one of them. I was almost sure he killed one of them. But yeah, I mean, there's some great campy, cheesy scenes at the beginning, like the foam head that's gnawing on his hand. Yeah. It's like clearly a foam head, like in with a wig strapped to it. Like it's just not even like painted. It's just a white foam head that you'd see at like a store. It was pretty great. The little gags, like when he traps his hand under a bucket after he chops it off. Yeah. And the final book he puts on top to weigh it down is A Farewell to Arms. I'm just like, just those little things that are like thoughts were just fucking great. But yeah, they throw Ash in the basement, and this is kind of where the movie takes its Evil Dead 1 turn, where it's like, okay, now we're pretty much just going to be like fucking around with the Evil Dead. The dead mom wakes up, or the archaeologist's wife, I should say, like wakes up in the basement. Yeah, like
she rises up from the grave, I guess.
And starts chasing Ash out of the basement. Yeah. They get him out. And then she's taunting him, kind of like Cheryl was in the first one.
And she kind of reverts back to her old form, and she's like singing
Rockabye Baby.
Yeah, Rockabye Baby.
Yeah. And she's singing like a lullaby and like trying to get Annie, and Ash is like, don't be fucking stupid. And then she's like, yeah, dead by dawn. And all the things in the house are like, dead by dawn, dead by dawn. And everyone's like, no, stop it. And I think over the course of this, like, shit just the Evil Dead monsters start coming around.
Yeah, and it's like one by one, everyone's kind of going down.
Right. I think Bobby Joe goes out in the wilderness. Yeah, because she runs out into like the trees or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's this whole thing where like the blood stops being blood. They turn it green for some reason. I mean, this movie's just wild as fuck. Though you even get this stupid redneck character who's like, because they're like, if we can just read the incantations to stop all this out of the book, then we'll do that. We just need to go get I think the book, or we need to get something from the basement or whatever. I don't remember what it was, but they need to get something. And the redneck's like, we're gonna go find Bobby Joe, because she gets attacked by those rapey trees in the first one.
And then he just throws
the pages in the fucking
into
basement.
the cellar.
And it's just like, he's like, now you guys, I got the gun and I got rid of the pages. Now you have to listen to me. And they're just like, don't be fucking stupid. And I think he gets eaten or something, doesn't he? He gets attacked or whatever. Something happens.
Yeah, he gets attacked.
Oh, well, I remember. No, she stabs him.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like he gets attacked and she just kind of leaves him, goes back into the house.
Yeah.
Here's like banging on the door and stuff. And she opens it and just stabs him.
Yeah, she just stabs him with the skull sword.
One of the evil undead.
Yeah, no, it just stabs him like straight up, and
tries dragging him away.
And he's just bitching about it.
Yeah,
and he's like, get this thing out of me, and she's like, okay, and like just rips it out.
And I'm like, he would be dead.
He would be dying on the floor about this shit. But instead, she does it and like is dragging him, and I think he gets taken by the mom or something.
Yeah,
shit,
he does.
Right?
Yeah, and then a whole bunch of blood just comes spraying out.
It sprays
like,
all over Annie.
Great.
Yes. Oh, I remember now. Ed's the guy who turns evil first, and they get rid of him like pretty much straight up.
Yeah.
And then he's the one they chop up, and he's all green.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that just was so, it was nuts, and like they just do this for a little bit, and then Ash turns evil after the redneck thing.
Yeah.
Ash is chasing them. That's right. It's not the mom. Ash is chasing them. And as he's chasing them, they kick over something, and the little monocle that he gave his girlfriend in the beginning falls, and he sees it, and it like kind of triggers him back to being normal, I guess.
Which I don't understand the whole monocle thing.
Yeah, I don't understand why it had to be this little monocle.
Yeah,
like, was that just what they had lying around?
Or
yeah, like
even like a pretty little heart necklace. But I think it's interesting that he, aside from everyone, can fight this.
The Evil Dead.
Not the Evil Dead, but it seems to like take over
the
people.
Fight the possession
kind
of thing. Yeah. Well, I think part of that might be they're trying to explain it with the whole sun hitting him before he could completely turn thing.
Oh, so he's kind of like half and half.
I guess
which
like
would be really cool, actually.
I think it was sort of like the way I took it was like the sun hit him, right? Turned him back, and the rest of the movie he's sort of walking that fine line of he can go one way or the other.
Yeah.
And then once he turns, that's him going one way, but then once he sees the necklace, the monocle, he goes back to normal, and that's like, you are a human again. Like, you made your choice, you're back to normal.
Yeah.
And they do this really kind of funny long, like, she keeps trying to kill him, and he's like, I'm back to normal. And it's funny because they don't really explain it, but the way I took it is like everyone else in both movies, when they're trying to convince you they're fine, they're talking very soft. They're like, hey, I'm back to normal, just save me, please, come on, get me out of here. And he's like, motherfucker, I'm back to normal, stop trying to kill me.
Yeah,
and like,
which
she goes
actually
to stab
is like
again.
more convincing than the
because like if you turned into like an Evil Dead right now, and then you turned back and you were like, Thomas, you son of a fucking bitch, like, I'm me again, stop trying to kill me. I'd be like, yeah, this makes more sense than, baby, I love you, please, just leave me alone. Like, just save me, just help me out. Like, no, you are evil monster. I am not believing this for a second. But yeah, she comes, and it's great because he does, for a minute you think he convinces her, and she tries to get, like, the drop on him, and, like, gets the sword up and, like, goes or whatever, an axe or something, and, like, goes to kill him. He's like, stop it! And I'm just like, that was good. That was a nice little extra bit.
Yeah.
But they have to decide, they have to go get the pages out of the basement now. And Ash, I think, oh, this was my favorite fucking part. They gear him up with the fucking chainsaw hand.
Yeah.
They go and they get Ash. It's this great little like montage where he's like, we got to do it right or something. And him and her go into the shed, and it's like and like together they build this like contraption to put the chainsaw on his stump wrist and like rig it to where the pull cord's on his chest, and he can like turn the chainsaw on, and he has the gun he saws off the shotgun. That's the groovy scene.
Yeah,
he saws off the shotgun with his chainsaw hand, flips it around, and he's just like, groovy, and like holsters it, and they go down, and he like goes down, and I don't think he doesn't really have to do too much in the basement. Like, he finds the pages kind of lying around, and then on his way up is when I think Mom
she's hiding
behind the
staircase. Yeah,
but
he's able to get out, but she also ends up getting out too.
Yeah, because doesn't Annie like hit her back with the lullaby?
Yeah,
she's like, hush little, and it kind of starts to trigger the mom back, and then Ash just comes out and like saws off her arm or something like that.
Yeah, there's a great montage because she turns into this E.T. looking
it's a nasty E.T. thing. Like, her neck, it's all claymation, stop motion, and her neck gets all big.
Yeah, or maybe it would be closer to if you've ever seen what is it called? The movie John Carpenter's
The Thing.
Yeah, The Thing.
It looks like
it's
The Thing,
exactly like
which
that.
is the #1 horror movie in my book. So no, it goes
but
The Thing,
that's basically
and then
what her neck is doing.
Yeah,
and it's just
she's doing like The Thing and screaming at him, and they're they're fighting her back, and then you get this awesome sequence of like they beat her or something, and they're chopping off all of her limbs. They like get her head, and they're chopping
and it's just
each
moving
limb
to
off.
the left, moving to the right,
it was
going
like,
up,
they
going
just
down.
touch it because he just kind of smacks. He's just smacking her with the chainsaw.
It's like zero gravity, and everything's just like flying in all different directions. It was a pretty cool scene.
No, it was great. They like chop her up, and so she's dead. And you get this. I thought this was great because this movie, up until this point, doesn't really get these. And I think this really like sealed the deal in this movie was you get that moment reprieve.
Yeah.
Like a moment where they go, okay, let's finish this shit up.
Mm-hmm.
And they get the pages out, and she's translating it, getting ready to read it. And then the trees start attacking the house.
Yeah, and this is like the final big battle.
Yeah. And so she reads, so there's 2 inscriptions. The first one, and they're like, why the fuck would you do this until you hear the second one? Mm-hmm. The first one is to make the evil dead like physical, to give it like a form. And then the second one is to, quote, open a hole in space and time and like basically shove it through. And so you have to read one, they have to read the other. Stupid dad just read the first one and didn't bother to read the second one, so everything's just kind of evil.
Yeah.
So she reads the first one again, and this horrid looking monster thing starts attacking the house.
Yeah.
Like this giant tentacle monster deal is like eating through the front door. It grabs Ash. He's fighting it. She reads most of the second one, and then she gets like stabbed or something, right?
She gets stabbed by his hand,
right?
That he thought he had killed.
That's right. The hand comes back because you think he shoots through the wall and kills the hand.
Yeah,
but he doesn't. It comes. You just see her go and then he's like, "What?" And she turns around, and the hand's like stuck in her back with a knife or something like that, and she's like laying on the ground dying and all this other stuff, and he's like, fuck, we're done. And he's like chainsawing this thing in the eye, and then she like whispers the last word or something, and it rips open the portal, and it starts sucking like the car and these trees, the monster, the hand, and Ash get sucked through. And earlier in the movie you see this like picture in the Necronomicon pages that looks like Ash with a chainsaw for a hand, like standing victorious over something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, whoa, it feels like someone just walked over the grave.
Because like during when they're at the cabin, they discussed how there was a man that was prophesized to kind of
the man that fell from the
all
sky.
Of these, destroy all of these demons.
Yeah,
which is what the archaeologist, or I guess the dad in the movie, had said.
No, if you've seen the movie Timeline or read the book Timeline by Michael Crichton, it's kind of that scenario. Like instead of finding a grave with the names of the people who are digging up the grave, you're like, you see a picture of Ash, clearly the third one, we'll get into it, but like this seems to be what happens in the third one. So Ash like wakes up and he's in kind of this like, not like wasteland, but just sort of this like deserty kind of area.
Yeah, and there's like a castle on a hill in the back.
And he's like, what the hell? Yeah. And then all these like knights in armor appear, and they're like, he's a demon or some shit, like kill him. And he's like, what the fuck? And all of a sudden they're like, oh no, it's a Darkid? Is that what they called it? Darkite. And this like bat person comes flying out of the sky, and everyone's freaking out. And then like all of a sudden its head blows up, and Ash is like standing there with the shotgun pointed out, and he says something clever, and I wish I remember. I wish I had a list. I wish I made a list of all the like one-liners that he said in this movie. If they do it in Army of Darkness, I'm so keeping a list. But he blows this thing's head off and just falls on the ground, and they're all like, he's killed the Darkid, the one who fell from the sky killed the Darkid. And he turns and he sees the castle, and then he looks back at the camera and sees all the people around him, and you just get this long no as it zooms out,
as
and
they're
everyone's
cheering for him.
And it just, what it is it almost just remakes the picture from the book that you see earlier.
Yeah.
And clearly that's the lead into Army of Darkness, which is about like one of the 3 things I remember from that movie.
Yeah.
Is that they time travel. That's about it. But yeah, so that movie was fantastic in my opinion. I will just say it now, easily like almost, I think I would say like 9.8 out of 10. I think the only things that hold it back is that it's like a sequel but not, and I kind of wish it was like, fuck the first one, just do this one. just let this be it.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that it's like they had to do it in such a way that they had to like reshoot things, but with different people and in a different way. But I liked honestly, I liked the reshoots in this better than the actual shots in the first one. It was pretty great, like just to watch this. I didn't know this is what I was going to be getting, so I'm like just very happy that this is what came out. What do you think, Amber?
Yeah, I would definitely give it like a 9 out of 10 because it was definitely, well, the first one was good, but it definitely just added a bit more to the second one, a bit more flair to it. And we got, a little bit more into like the book and everything, about that. And I just think it definitely leaves more room for a third movie. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I think you really get more continuity, because the first one clearly like so one of the interesting, like, again, take it all with a grain of salt, but one of the interesting like trivia bits is that I guess Stephen King really liked the first one, and I mean that might actually be true, but apparently like Stephen King was really like the first one, so much so that when they were doing Maximum Overdrive, when they were filming Maximum Overdrive, he convinced the producer Dino De Laurentiis, who also appeared on this show prior. Want to take a guess which movie he produced that we've already done?
Oof. I'm trying to think back to all the movies we just did. Can I get a hint?
It's from about the same time period, so the 80s.
Candyman?
No. Flash Gordon.
No way.
Yep, the guy who produced Maximum Overdrive also produced Flash Gordon, but he did not produce this movie. Okay. At least according to IMDb, he is not credited with producing this movie. However, Stephen King apparently really loved Evil Dead that much, he was trying to get his company to do it. So I don't think they did. I think the production company is like Rosebud or something, so it wasn't that one. But it was interesting to know, like, horror movie and author, Stephen King, of all people, really liked the first Evil Dead, which is, I guess, surprising and not surprising. I mean, it is kind of a crazy movie. But yeah, so this movie clearly had a lot more behind it. I liked that it had so much behind it because it was able to do things from the first movie a little bit better than it was in the first movie.
Yeah.
To where you did get kind of a continued into Evil Dead 2. But it did do kind of the same thing that the new Friday I know I said this, I think, in the last Evil Dead movie. But in the new Friday the 13th, one of the things it did was it took the first original Friday the 13th movie, where the mom's the killer,
Yeah.
and just condensed it into the first, 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
And, well, maybe 15 minutes. But this did that, too. It was like, this is what happened in the first one.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. And I kind of liked it, because it's almost like you could just watch this on its own. I'm super happy we didn't rent this. I'm really happy to say we own this movie now.
What would yours be?
Oh, 9.8, 9.9.
Okay.
Easy.
Yeah.
What's bringing you down? So what's bringing me down is, like I said, just the fact that, it did have to rehash that first couple.
Yeah, that was a little bit odd for me.
But I liked that part better, so I was like, you have to rehash it, but I mean, you did it better than the first one, so whatever.
Yeah, I think that was basically it for me.
Yeah.
Because the actual gore itself was a lot better than... Actually, well, some of it did kind of bother me, but
paint. I loved the red
the
paint
eyeball
shit,
going into her mouth.
That was so good.
And then,
I loved it. I loved how we
creepy
never
dancing and the outside.
That was
like,
freaky.
There were a lot of things that just made me go, oh, like
on the eyeball note though. I love how we never properly address where that eyeball went.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of waiting for a shot of her spitting it out, but she just kind of gets up. I think she ate it.
Yeah, they don't even show her again, because I was like, oh my gosh, she died, or she choked on it and thus turning into Evil Dead.
Yeah.
But no, she's like, oh, I'm okay, and it's like,
yeah,
did
she
you
gets killed off screen by the trees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she gets attacked on screen, but she
even
dies,
then she says something like, oh, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Before she goes into the woods or something, but
yeah, I was kind of like that. No thanks. That was gross. But I was laughing my ass off at it.
She probably ate it or something.
That's what I'm saying, is we never see a shot of her spitting it out. So I think she ate the damn thing. It's gross as fuck, but it's there.
So fucking gross.
No, I think the blood and gore in this was the right kind of campy for me. The first one definitely was we're gonna try to make it look pretty real, over the top, but as if real blood was doing this. In this one, when he shoots the hand, it's straight through the wall, it's red paint. It's not even the sugar syrup
and
stuff.
The Kool-Aid and
it totally looks like Kool-Aid, and it's just going everywhere. And I'm like, hey, it saves you money. Use Kool-Aid. It's cheap as hell.
I guess it could have been more real in that aspect, but
I mean, I almost prefer. Again, I preferred everything about this movie to the first one.
Okay.
I preferred the plot. I preferred the campiness. I preferred even the special effects, because it was just let's be campy. Let's do this thing the way it could have been in the first one. And they did it, and I was like, this is great. And let's do. I also really appreciated fleshing out the plot a little bit more. Having maybe a little bit new recording, getting somebody who is also involved in the discovery of this book in there to kind of, explain shit better. You have someone who can read this book and all this other crap. It made more sense. Whereas in the other one, it's we found this creepy book. Goodbye, book. And then oh, look, the book. That's right. It's causing this. Let me throw it in the fire. And it does its thing. That all being said, so we got our ratings. I mean, I guess first, let's compare the two. What do you think? Better, worse?
I think about the same.
You think?
Well, for critics, but
well, no,
I think.
I mean for you personally.
Okay.
Which one are you preferring over the other?
What do you mean?
Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 1.
Oh, definitely Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, same, without a doubt. I mean, Evil Dead 1 seems like a classic, and I can appreciate it, but Evil Dead 2...
Yeah, it gets you into it, but Evil Dead 2 is really what...
This is the one where it's
what clinches it.
Yeah, exactly. You're watching Evil Dead 1, you're like, I wish this was a little bit more campy. And then it's oh, look, here's Evil Dead 2. And it's just, I love Bruce Campbell in this movie. I love that they clearly, in the first one, I'm almost scared to rewatch the first one at some point, because I feel like it'll just be him holding back. Whereas in this one, it's man, just go crazy. Just fucking go nuts. And at the end, he's this total, badass with a chainsaw hand. This is fucking awesome. So yeah, I'm really, I'm 100% behind this movie. I've had people on Facebook after I said I was watching this, they were just like, what? How have you never seen this movie before? And I was like, It's like a lot of the movies we do on the show. It's something I've never was never actively not wanting to watch, but I just never got around to it. And now it's like we decided to do this marathon and all, and I'm just like, yeah, this is dead on. Like, I love this movie. This is easily second favorite fucking horror movie of all time, with the first one being The Thing. With John Carpenter's The Thing. That new one is not very good. And the 50s one is okay, but not in the top tier. So that all being said, where do you think the third one's going to land for you? Where do you think in this trilogy of Evil Dead movies, where do you think the third one's going to land for you, Amber, on that line?
I think the third one, so if we're giving this, I guess, we'll give it like an...
If
we're ranking them...
Yeah, like rank them 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1.
I would rank them 2, 3, and 1.
Do you think that's how it's going to play out?
Yeah, I think that's how it's going to play out.
I have a feeling that too. So, as I mentioned in the last episode, and I think at the beginning of this episode, I did see I'm breaking the rules a little bit. I did see the third one a long time ago, and I have to admit, I only remember maybe 3 things, one of which is the fact they go back in time, which is clearly shown in the end of this movie, so it's, whatever. And then I think I remember the very end. There's a shopping mall or something. I don't remember. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it really, all I can say is it looks like a medieval adventure, which you get at the end of this movie. But yeah, I think it's going to be 2, 3, 1 for me. I don't remember much about the third one, and that maybe is swaying me a little bit and kind of going, well, maybe it just wasn't that memorable. So 2 is really standing out. How's 3 going to be? I don't know, but it's starting to seem like 3 is going to be pretty dead on.
Okay.
But I think no matter what, it's going to be better than 1. And I think a lot of that's just going to be because it flows. I mean, this movie ends, it flows right into the third one, I assume. But yeah, I think that might just do it. Do you have any final thoughts on this movie? Anything you want to say about it that we might have not grabbed before this?
No.
Nothing caught your eye on this movie at all?
I think we discussed everything that caught my eye.
Mean, one of the downsides I think of this movie is so much happens, but so much of it is just we could sit here for hours just talking about the physical nonsense that happens in this movie. And it's great every second of it, but it doesn't do anything for the movie, or it doesn't do anything to the plot. It's just they're attacking and fighting, and there's a scene where he dances with a lamp, and I'm just laughing my ass off at this thing.
Yeah, or all of the stuff. Oh my god, the horse laughing.
That whole sequence, everything's laughing. Yeah, the deer on the wall is and then everyone just starts moving back and forth laughing. Bruce Campbell's laughing. He's dancing with a lamp that's laughing, and then he shoots Bobby Joe in the shoulder.
He's having this
he's going nuts.
Moment. Yeah.
And I think that was the first part of the I'm becoming a monster thing.
Yeah.
Not to I don't really want to try to interpret too much out of the Evil Dead 2, but I think that was, if we're going along with this, he's part monster and he's walking this line, I think that's the first I'm kind of falling, and then him actually shooting the door before coming out of it is you're almost there, but, and then he finally turns when he gets knocked out, and then he comes back, and that's sort of his arc. It's Evil Dead 2. I mean, it's goofy as hell. Calling it an emotional character arc is something, but it's there. And I mean, there's a lot of campy garbage movies that are coming out nowadays where there is no real arc, and it's just kind of this one managed to do it and be mostly just gory stimulation, and that's great. But yes, so obviously next time we're going to wrap up our marathon here with Army of Darkness, the third and final theatrical installment of The Evil Dead. I'll probably end up watching this TV show for sure after we finish that movie. We're probably not going to do an episode on it, but maybe check out our social media for a review of the first few episodes. We've been doing that with some shows lately. If you go back and check out, I think we did one for The Mandalorian. I was sort of stuck at home for a while, and I did all the Star Wars movies. Also did the new Star Trek Picard show. And those are just our thoughts on it. We're not really doing an episode, just a quick write-up, and here you go. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, like TV and our suggestions about it, then you can always check out our social media. That is at So What Happens Next, or on Twitter at So What Happens N1. And then our website, swhn19.com, where you can find all of our past episodes. You can find all these great posters. I think you guys will really like some of these Evil Dead ones I've been working on to incorporate me and Amber into them. It was getting a little had to get a little clever. If any of you know Evil Dead 2, it has a pretty minimalist poster, but I think it came out pretty nice. But yeah, so feel free to check those out. They're funny. We post them also to our Instagram, Twitter. We're, and obviously our website. Also, feel free to comment, hit us up through Twitter, through our website, message board, kind of comment back and forth, talk about the movies, talk about what you guys think. Some of the information we get from listeners sounds like we kind of maybe are having some ideas that they don't, and people are mad or happy, and you're just like, oh my god, I thought the same thing, or you're like, oh fuck you guys are the worst, you guys don't understand art, or something like that. I feel like there might have been a lot of those for Hereditary, but let us know, aside from getting the feedback, we just love to keep this conversation going. So let us know what your thoughts are on the Evil Dead 2. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think that me analyzing too much is too much of a reach in Bruce Campbell's character, or do you think I'm dead on, or do you have a different interpretation? So stuff like that, let us know. But next week, we're gonna wrap this up with Army of Darkness. So stay tuned for next week. And as always, I am one of your hosts, Thomas.
I'm Amber.
And we'll see ya in the final installment of the Evil Dead franchise.